first as a graduate student studying how the immune system could be harnessed to fight cancer. And now I have the privilege of working with this network of researchers and trainees, our partners, and important stakeholders, including industry and patient stakeholders, to ensure that the most promising and innovative immune-based therapies for cancer can emerge from our Canadian laboratories for the benefit of Canadian cancer patients. So I'm honored to be invited here today to share some of the excitement about this wave of new therapies called immunotherapies, which have emerged in the Canadian healthcare landscape recently. There are many more coming very soon on the horizon, and my organization and many others in Canada and around the world are advancing science and innovation to create a whole other wave of innovations that will be coming to the benefit of Canadian patients. So I've been asked, as Jackie mentioned, to give a bit of a high-level view of how immunotherapy works and what is so exciting about immunotherapy and what is the immune system anyway. So I like to think of the immune system as a well-oiled and exquisitely precise machine whose job it is to fight off disease when we become infected with a germ, like a microbe, a virus, or a bacteria. It's this very same system that gets activated or switched on when we receive a vaccine, like your flu shot. This is to prevent us from becoming infected in the first place when we encounter a challenge from a bacteria. So the immune system is actually able to be kept in a state of readiness, waiting to fight off an attacking offender. The immune system itself is very well trained to recognize things that are foreign and not part of us and a threat to us, but is equally well trained not to recognize our own normal healthy cells and tissues. I think this is actually very important. The immune system is very much like armed forces. It's a well-trained and choreographed assault team. It's made up of a variety of types of soldiers and commanders with sophisticated weaponry and equipment, all designed to fend off invading threats. So when researchers have been thinking about how to design therapies to treat cancer, we can actually borrow a lot of examples or a lot of learnings from the immune system. Because really, the ideal cancer therapy would be something that would attack cancer cells very specifically, but would not harm our normal healthy cells so that we don't become sick from the therapy itself. So this act of selecting the target for the tumor target for killing is what we call cancer targeting. So something very interesting to know is that our immune system actually can tell the difference between our cancer cells and our normal cells in our body. And in fact, there's a surveillance of our immune system throughout our body, ongoing all the time, looking for small changes in our cells that produce mutations and tumors. And this is actually very effective most of the time. And unfortunately, cancer is very clever though, and sometimes cancer cells are able to mutate and change in a way that they can escape this regular immune surveillance by developing a cancer's own countermeasures. So decades of research have given us a variety of tools to train the immune system to do a better job of hunting down and destroying cancer experimentally in the lab. These tools are what we call immunotherapies. They are drugs, they are cells, they are stimulators of all kinds that can redirect the immune system to focus on cancer, even when cancer has learned how to hide. In more recent years, and by that I mean the 2010s or so, we're now learning that the immune system can be trained how to recognize human cancer and attack it in a clinically meaningful way while leaving our normal cells alone. So some of these immunotherapies are incredibly effective, saving more and more lives, prolonging survival, and are considered breakthroughs in cancer treatment. So how do these immunotherapies work? Well, to make the immune system effective at attacking anything, including cancer, three things need to happen. The first is that the immune system needs to be programmed. We need to tell the immune system what it's looking for. So we're alerting the troops in a way and informing them this is what the tumor looks like. The immune system then has to go and actually find the tumor, go find the cancer cells wherever they may be hiding. So they actually have to go through our circulation seeking the cancer. And when they get there, they have to destroy the cells in an impactful and important way. We actually can tell the immune system now what kinds of tools it needs to do this job and how to overcome a tumor's countermeasures. And as I say, to overcome any of the tumor's defenses against our immune system, we now have tools for the job. And in all three of these areas of attack, we have immunotherapies. So for example, to program the immune system and educate it to go looking for a tumor, we have cancer vaccines and we have engineered T-cell products. So just for an example, you might have heard of CAR T-cell therapy. This is something that was approved in the United States just late last year. It's going to be coming to Canada. It is a therapy wherein we harvest immune cells from a patient's body. We engineer them in the lab to tell them what the tumor looks like, where to find it, and what tools to take to do the job. We can grow these cells in large numbers in the lab and give them back to a patient, and then these cells can go and find the cancer and attack it wherever it's hiding. In order to help the immune system seek and actually find tumors where they might be, there are a variety of drugs that can actually attract these soldier cells, I would call them, into the tumors, and to help break down the physical or chemical barriers that the tumor has put up to defend itself from immune attack. One example where Canadian innovation is actually the leading edge of this type of class of platform is in what we call oncolytic viruses, the discovery that we can actually use viruses as cancer therapy to enter a tumor, infect cells, only the tumor cells, kill those cells, and in that process, bring in the immune system to finish the job. And finally, we have drugs that will help complement the immune system to destroy the tumor. So these would be what we call the checkpoint inhibitor antibodies, to make the incoming immune cells that have now found the tumor and have identified the tumor and are specific for the tumor, they can now unload a much more potent attack, because those checkpoint inhibitors, which are antibodies, allow the immune system to overcome the tumor's defenses. So we're not talking about just a few drugs, we're talking about large classes of therapies and innovation that are coming, and they're great successes to date, and there's much more on the way that we need to prepare for. So as mentioned, I'm here representing BioCanRx's, which is a not-for-profit corporation funded by the federal government's Network of Centers of Excellence, or NCE program. We're under the scientific leadership of Dr. John Bell at the Ottawa Hospital Research Institute. He himself and his colleagues were the pioneers in that class of viruses as cancer therapies, and now leads significant initiatives in the biotech space to bring these therapies into clinical trials in Canada and hopefully approval. Working with our partners at BioCanRx's and stakeholders, it's our mission to accelerate to the clinic the most promising cancer biotherapeutics designed to save lives and to offer a better quality of life. To us, that means developing laboratory discoveries from Canadian labs, specifically promising new immuno-based therapies for cancer, which are targeted and potent, and which generate long-lasting disease control or cures, in many cases with few side effects. So together, our network is bringing novel therapies to patients in Canada via clinical trials. We are applying very deep research into how these therapies are working in patients, and also to understand why they're only working for some patients and not others. We want to be able to understand how to create more successes with the tools that we already have, while we're also developing new tools for the job. We are supporting the early development of Canadian SMEs in the cancer biotherapy space here in Canada to help them to demonstrate the value of their therapies and their technologies for further growth and investment right here in Canada. And I think very importantly, we're developing tools to evaluate our technologies and our partners early in the development cycle with an eye to greater hurdles in their uptake by the Canadian healthcare system. This includes analysis early on of factors that influence pricing and reimbursement, specialized infrastructure requirements there may be, not just to develop these therapies, but to deliver them in clinic. There are also, in many cases, specialized manufacturing and specialized training requirements in order to meet the challenge of developing and implementing these therapies in our system. We are doing this at BioCanRx's with our partners at academic scale, and we're very successful at this to date. We look forward to continuing our work with our partners and important stakeholders to what I would call supersize these offerings, so that we can bring more of these technologies to more cancer patients and help also to anchor the firms we're working with right here in Canada. And with that, I'd like to again thank you for your attention. Thank you for the invitation to come. I look forward to meeting with many of you to discuss how we can do this together, and would be happy to answer any questions you may have either now or after the breakfast. Thank you.